Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to introduce you to JavaScript objects. We're going to start off with some of the basic stuff such as what are the objects? Why do we use an object in general? How do we create it? How to add or update property to an object? And different types of properties inside an object. And as we go further, we're going to discuss some of the advanced topics such as prototypes, for example. Those are the stuff that every JavaScript developer needs to know in order to write simple code. Now let's get back to the first question. What is an object? An object is a collection of properties and methods, which means basically a collection of data and functionality. Bundle, as you can call it. Now the second question, why do we use an object? In general, what's the purpose? The thing is, the object, it can be easier to decompose a problem by breaking it up into objects that collect related operations and state. Now, how do we create an object? Creation of object is pretty simple. It's very basic. Let me show you. Let's say a car. Now, this right here is called literal notation. It's called literal notation, also known as initializer notation, which is by enclosing curly braces. So we declared an empty object with no properties or methods. Oops, it's actually aka. So basically, object initializer is a comma delimited list of 0 or more pairs of property names and associated values of an object, enclosed in curly braces, as you can see it. So basically, I can write name of a property and its value. Let's say Mark, which is, let's say it's Toyota. So basically, I declared a property name and I assigned the value, which is string Toyota. So let me explain data types first, because data types are important in order to understand objects. There are two types of data types, which are primitive and non-primitive. Primitive data types are the data types which hold no properties or methods, and non-primitive data type is the data type that has properties and methods, which are objects. So basically, an object is a non-primitive structural data type, which can hold primitive data types such as strings, integers, null, undefined, and boolean, which is either true or false. So basically, those are primitive data types, and this right here is a non-primitive. It's an object. So in JavaScript, everything which is not primitive is an object. So as I mentioned, we can assign any kind of primitive value to an object property. So we can assign, let's say, we can assign integer, we can assign null, or we can use undefined, and a boolean as well. So we can give it kind of everything, And the thing is, JavaScript objects can hold other objects as well. So basically, property can be another non-primitive value, which is object, which inside can have other properties as well. So this is the kind of structure of an object. It's a basic object right here. So object is, as you can see, it's a key value pair. We have a key, the name of the property, and we assign value, which is either a string, integer, null, undefined, boolean, or another object. Okay, let me delete this. And now I'm going to show you an example of simple object. So I'm going to paste this over here. So, as we can see, we have a car object which has mark, model property, color property, and it has two functions. Now, a thing about functions is, whenever a function is assigned to an object, it's called method. So, this object has two methods over here. which is drive and drift. And whenever we call these methods on the object, they're gonna return this string right here. Okay, let me show you some simple stuff with it. So we can actually get these properties from an object. Let me run this. So I'll delete this. And as you can see, we can get a property from an object which we created right here, and it returns the value assigned to its property. If we call, let's say, a model, it returns this, the return value of this property. Now about the methods. If we want to get the return value of this method, we have to call it by its name. So basically this function name is drive, and we have to call it. And this function is getting executed, and it's returning the string right here. Now let's say I want to add a property in this object. We're gonna have to do something like this. Let's say I want to add a year on this object, which is this year. So basically we added a property with its value inside an object. So technically, if I wanted to do this earlier, I could do something like this. Year 194. And so this is technically the same as this. But in this case, it's predefined. I added it when I created this object. And in this case, I added a property. We can also change already existing property value like this. Let's say, we can change mark. Let's say like this. And now if I execute the code, and whenever I try to get mark, it returns this right here, because I override it right here. And also year, which I set right here. So basically you can add and change any property value whenever you want. There is no restrictions on that. By the way, I forgot to mention square bracket syntax. So whenever we're trying to approach the property inside an object, let's say, so in this case I could do something like this. I could do this, and it would be exactly the same as car.mark. The difference is that square bracket syntax has some advantages in some of the cases, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. It's a topic for another video on later tutorials. So make sure to subscribe and expect more videos from us, because it's coming very soon. By the way, the next video is going to be about several ways creating JavaScript objects. In this case, we only showed you the literal notation case, which is this, the enclosing curly braces. But there are other ways to create an object as well, which we're going to talk about later. Now, about the square bracket syntax, the thing is, they are exactly the same, technically. There is no difference. The result is the same. But square bracket syntax has some of the advantages, which we're going to talk about later. If I were to create another object, let's say I wanted to create another car 2. Let's say car blue. So let's say I call car2.mark. So this object has its own properties and its methods, and this object has its properties and methods, but the functions are exactly the same. Now we are kind of repeating the same pattern, but I'm going to show you a way to write smaller code and repeat the same pattern inside an objects, but in the later videos, which is going to come really soon. So basically this is it. This is the simple introduction to JavaScript objects. So that's about it. See you guys on the next video.